You know, I'm pretty sure that I've been to Massachusetts a fair few times during the entirety of Backtracking's existence, but to go there twice during the first 5 episodes of Season 3 is a little bit strange even for me. Still, I guess that I'll just have to get used to it, especially since I'm not actually going to set places, but today's band are from there, so yeah. Iceland Kills first formed in 2006, and thanks to their rather uniquely theatrical take on the genre of metalcore, they're still going strong enough to this day. As a band that I've heard snippets from, but not full songs, with the exception of one which I'll get to later. I'm glad that a good friend of mine on Discord recommended these guys to me. It gives me something to do, and it gives me a chance to listen to a band that I never thought I'd get into before. With that in mind, I would like to thank my friend Sai, who recommended these guys, and we're just going to get started with the episode. It's Backtracking, and this time, it's Ice9 Kills. We kick things off with their debut album, Last Chance to Make Amends. Released in 2006, the band released this one themselves, and it's safe to assume that they also handled the production. Now, remember in the intro when I said that I'd heard snippets of their stuff and maybe one or two songs? Well, said snippets and songs are of the more recent end that they've taken on, because Last Chance to Make Amends is a lot different. It's more of an emo / post-hardcore style album, and considering that said album came out in 2006, it got really badly lumped in with similar releases at the time, which I can sort of get because goodness gracious do the band sound... Okay, this isn't to be cruel to the band, but they don't really have an identity here. I mean, I honestly had trouble judging if I was listening to these guys or if I was listening to Senses Fail. There are so many genres and influences that are so all over the place that it's really hard to keep up. Not only are there traces of Senses Fail, but there's little specks of yellow card at points, only without the violins and, the good sound. And as another sad consequence of the mid-2000s emo album Glut, the lyrics and subject matter are also sort of the same old. References to being broken up with, depression, suicide, negative thoughts, things that I've heard before and heard told better. I will say that it was probably smart by the band to call this album what it's been called, because even though it has the words Last Chance in it, I've still got 3 more albums to get through as of writing this. 3 albums which I already kind of know are better. And also, the production value of this album really confused me. A lot of the tracks sounded pretty raw and like your typical fare when it came to debut emo albums of that era, but on the version of the album that I found on YouTube, one of the songs is produced really well and sounds super pop punky. I will blame that on this album being difficult to find though. Hell, even when I did find it, I had to search for the intro track separately from the playlist because it was attached with another song from the band's second album. I guess that was just to cover up that uploaded tracks, I don't really know. The album's balance and structure is just kind of all over the place, as is their influences, like I mentioned earlier, with the band trying to sound like too many of the bands at the same time, all at once, resulting in a somewhat incoherent mess, despite the vocals being clear enough to hear. I will admit, I do like the vocals in this album. They are good, and instrumental work is good at times, but a lot about the album just does not sit right with me, Spencer Jonas' vocals do sound good, but they do nothing to help the style lyrics that other bands at the time had already done before him. Jeremy Schwartz puts in the best performance on this album for my money, with good riffs and nice little solos here and there, because he is the guitarist. Andrew Justin Smith's bass is good when it needs to be, but it's buried under the really raw production, which is kind of a weird thing to say. And Grant Newsted's drumming is okay with some unique stuff, but not even that can take away from the rest of the album. Standout songs include Last Words, Cinderblocks and Thank You Notes, Murders and Acquisitions, and probably my favourite in I Do and I Don't. The band does put in an earnest effort, but they try way too much at once and they just wind up getting lost in the shuffle a bit. Questionable production, familiar lyrical territory, and not trying terribly hard to find their own identity despite the album being self-released and self-produced. I just can't recommend this one, I'm afraid. I know, knowing how I know the band now, it's just weird to listen to this one, so, yeah, sorry. We then reached their second album, Safe Is Just a Shadow, released in 2010 through the label Red Blue. I actually wound up listening to the re-recorded and re-released version in 2017 when it was released through the band's current label of Fearless. Having said that, I really didn't find anything unproducer for this one either way, but I am going to chalk it up to, give me a second here, a dude named Steve Sobchak who produces their next 2 albums, so yeah, there's that. And also, the track listing on both the original 2010 release and the 2017 re-release is the same, so I think that I can get away with that one, really. Pardon me. Anyway, Safe is Just a Shadow is definitely where the band found their footing, playing their more signature metalcore style on this album. Now, whilst most people would lump this in as being similar to most other metalcore releases of its time, it does deserve more recognition due to the band's commitment to their theatricality. There's a really good storytelling element to songs, to things, even though they couldn't shake the thing about giving the songs super long names, which I don't like. It's also a unique album as it's the only one by the band to have two lead vocalists, with Spencer Jones being joined by a dude named Dave Sealing. Oh, okay, that was on the 2010 version at least. But yeah, the band actually does a much better job with everything this time around, actually trying not to sound like other bands, which is difficult considering that 2010 was a year where a lot of the cleaner style of metalcore was starting to come out and a lot of those bands were starting to rise. Luckily, adding some more unique things in there sort of Safe is Just a Shadow from being just another metalcore album in 2010 by just another metalcore band in 2010. Even though the time gap between releases was rather long, 4 years, I feel like they spent most of that time growing out of their emo roots and changing their sound altogether. Hell, if you ask me, Ice Nine Kills almost sounds like a completely different band on the second album, and trust me, it's for the better. I like that they haven't fully outgrown everything, though. They still have theatricality and storytelling on their debut. Sure, it wasn't as well handled, but it does prove that the band were at least trying something different in an era where so many other bands were doing so many similar things. The same thing could be said for the second album, but in a more positive light. I couldn't actually find an official time limit for the album, but it seems to be just short of 36 minutes, so I'll use that to justify why I feel like this album is the band's shortest from the times that I could see. Maybe their debut was shorter, but I couldn't find anything at all when it came to a running time for that one. Before I cover the band's performances, I will say that I'll be judging them from listening to the re-release with the band's current lineup. They kept almost all their original members from 2010. Sorry, not original members, all their members from 2010 anyway, so it's really not that huge of a difference. Anyway, Spencer's vocals sound a lot more on point and clearer to hear, and he sounds like he's having fun telling the stories of the songs. Justin, JD, as I like to call him, to Blake, has some good guitar work and some shades of solos in there, which I would like to hear more, really. Justin Morrow's bass sounds good too, playing along greatly with breakdowns and really playing well with the soaring moments, so I can appreciate that in a bassist. And Con Sullivan's drumming is also good, with a mean double bass and just a really, really good, heavy-hitting, cymbal smashing style. My standout songs include Chris Brown's latest hits. Yeah, they kind of went there. Newton's Third Law of Nose to the Back, So This Is My Future, The People Under the Stairs, and my favourite and the greatest story ever told. Safe is Just a Shadow might not be the most overtly unique metalcore album of 2010, but at least it's trying to be. And in most cases, it succeeds thanks to great performances and production, and for those reasons, I can pretty much recommend it. We then reach their third album in The Predator Becomes the Prey, released in 2014 through Fearless Records as well as a label named Outloop. I actually managed to find a producer for this one. Yeah, like I sort of did last time, but sort of didn't. Anyway, his name is Steve Sobchak, as I said earlier, and the dude does a damn good job on this album, but we'll talk more about that later. This album is definitely where the band started to get more comfortable with their style of metalcore, but more importantly, they started tapping in a lot more to their theatrical side, more than they did on Safe as Just a Shadow. But once again, I feel like the long time between albums is worth taking note of. There was 4 years between their debut and the second album, and another 4 years between the second album and this one. I don't know if that's a result of ridiculous amounts of touring or wanting to hone their crafts a bit better, but still that shows a huge level of dedication that I can really appreciate. Another big change is the song titles being shorter, and it's helped further by most of those with shorter names having better stories behind them. I'd imagine that'd be easier to say The Power in Belief than The Fastest Way to a Girl's Heart Through a Ribcage, but that's just me. Anyway, besides that, this album does see the band tampering with other new things. There's cleaner production and more things tried with that, with some really cool vocal effects on some of the songs. And we also get a taste of some more guitar solos, which is good. It's strange that this album feels more like traditional metalcore whilst also having that taste of theatrical. Yes, that's the name of a genre that exists, and this band plays it. But they really pull it off somehow. It's almost like they're trying new things to avoid being lumped in with others, which again could be attributed to the long time periods between album releases. Making the conscious choice to change even the littlest things about themselves between albums is a trait that I really like, and it's not seen often enough for my money. Also, and this is totally not because I'm running low on things to bring up, but this album does feature the band's first case of a guest vocalist, said vocalist being Tyler Carter from Issues, and the song that it appears on is titled What I Never Learned in Study Hall, a pseudo-sequel to a song titled What I Learned in Study Hall from their debut album. The band performed well, with Spencer's vocals sounding way more sounding way more improved, even adding a menacing growl to his screams. The guitar work is great with some great solos, even through the chaos of some absolutely fantastic breakdowns. Justin's own curly vocal work is great too. Justin Morrow's bass, yeah, like the guitarist is named Justin, the bassist is named Justin. It's weird. But Justin Morrow's bass is on point, sounding a lot better and adding a good groove to everything. And Connor's drumming has also picked up as well, with him putting in some really good work rate behind the kit, which I just really like. Standout songs include The Power and Belief, The Coffin is Moving, What I Never Learned in Study Hall, What Lies Beneath, and my favourite in a song called Jonathan. The Predator Becomes the Prey is another showcase of the band's willingness to try new things, and it pays off massively thanks to the great production, songwriting, and a slight aspect of experimentation, which I just enjoy. So I can certainly recommend this one. And finally, we reach the fourth album, Every Trick in the Book. Released in 2015, it's the band's only album to be released only through Fearless, which helps. It was once again produced by Steve Sobchak, and this album is without doubt the band's most unique one, but I'll talk about that later. The album is also the band's longest, with the original release of it being 4 seconds longer than The Predator and the Prey. However, thanks to the 11th track that was released in 2017 for this album, and considering the fact that the band themselves considered that track to be the last chapter of the album, the time moves from 4 seconds more to about 4 minutes more, making this album almost 42 minutes long. Yeah, I actually broke that down when I was looking up things for this. I'm a bit of a nerd. Anyway, back to what I was saying about this album being unique. Every song is based on a different book in history, including the 11th song released. And since I need to fill the dead air, I'm going to just go ahead and list all the songs and, which song is based on which book and by which author. Cue the non-existent comedy music, because I can't fucking edit. Nature of the Beast, based on Animal Farm by George Orwell. Communion of the Curse, based on The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. Bloodbath and Beyond, based on Dracula by Bram Stoker. The Plot Thickens, based on Alive, the Story of the Andes Survivors by Piers Paul Reed. Star-Crossed Enemies, based on Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare, obviously. Me, Myself and Hyde, based on The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Alice, based on Go Ask Alex by Beatrice Sparks. The People in the Attic, based on Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Testimony, based on Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. Hell in the Hallways, based on Carrie by Stephen King. And finally, number 11, Enjoy Your Slay, the song released in 2017, based on The Shining by Stephen King. Enjoy Your Slay was actually the first song I heard by Iceman Kills in Full, and it's pretty cool because it has a guest vocalist named Sam Kubrick, who is the grandson of Stanley Kubrick, who directed the movie adaptation of The Shining. I just love little things like that. If my aesthetic rants about how much I love it for the Defeater episode doesn't say anything, then this probably does. Also, this album is certainly the band's most theatrical, and in my opinion, it's probably the best work yet. There's a lot of memorable stuff about it, and the fact that it works sort of like a concept album with each song being based on a book is pretty cool. Another new thing is the symphonic element, and they didn't really scrimp on that. There's so much great usage of string arrangements, giving every song an even more theatrical and orchestral feeling, which I feel like they deserve. Also, I don't think that this is in relation to the books thing, but the lyrics are just so damn good here. They don't just tell these stories in a great way, but the band does add their own little thing without crossing the streams too much, and I approve of that balance and the structure of it too. Spencer's vocals sound so good, so clean, and his spoken word delivery is just great too, and he sounds like he's having fun when he says what he's saying, especially on the darker songs. It's just so good. Justin's curly vocal work is also great, and his solos, licks, and riffs sound just way, way, way better. Morrow's bass sounds awesome, shining through greatly, no pun intended, and playing along so well with the breakdowns. And goodness me, Connor's drumming has improved a lot as well. Great fills, timing, speed, and a lot of power. Just really well done stuff. Standout tracks include Bloodbath and Beyond, Star-Crossed Enemies, Me, Myself and Hyde, Hell in the Hallways, and my favourite in Enjoy Your Slay, which might be my favourite Iceman Kills song. Every trick in the book is the band at their best, and a fitting title since the band certainly does pull out every trick that they can think of, and all of them work on this album. Great production, lyrics, musical work, and new symphonic element, balanced well, structured well, greatly told stories, just awesome. I can recommend this one, it's awesome. And as always, let's discuss what we've learned, shall we? My favourite was definitely Every Trick in the Book, just a unique take on a concept album thing, along with each song sounding so unique and telling each story that the song is telling the stories of the songs that the books that are based on the books. That was a sentence. But yeah, it was just really mind-blowing and a really interesting thing. I really liked it. My least favourite is obviously Last Chance to Make Amends. It's just kind of generic, a little bit boring, and it just has this overall sense of it doesn't really know what it wants to be. And for that, I really wasn't a huge fan of that style. Sorry. But anyway, that'll about wrap it up. Join me next time as I cover a hard rock / heavy metal band not from Boston, Massachusetts, named Adrenaline Mob. As always, thank you for listening. You're awesome. Bye bye. Oh, and also thank you to Sai for recommending me this band to do for an episode. So you get a double thumbs up for recommending these. So, yeah. See you all next time.